Hola a todos. Well, there's one question that I get asked more than any other, and that is, was your life better in the UK or is it better in Spain? Well, in this video, I'm going to try and address that very question. So let's get right into it. So as you probably know, we moved to Spain just under 3 years ago now. That was January 23. And you know, we did it because basically we'd just had enough of the United Kingdom. You know, the overall mood of the country, the constant bad weather, never-ending increases in taxes, high cost of living, constant negativity in the media, and you know, all that kind of stuff. Also, I was a self-employed consultant, and my day rates had been dramatically reduced since COVID. And I was spending hours and hours driving up and down the M6, having to stay away from home for nights on end. And you know, it was genuinely starting to affect both my mental health and my wife's too. Now, a few other things had gone on. You know, our parents had all passed away, children had grown up and had moved out. So we felt if we were ever going to make the move to Spain, it was now or never. We applied for and received our visas. We sold up in Scotland and we moved full time to Spain. But has it all worked out for the best? Well, I'm here to let you know. But what I can tell you is that our life here is nothing like we could have ever imagined. Before I get into the detail, it's really important that you look at the little QR code. Somewhere down here there'll be a little QR code. If you scan that with your mobile phone, it seems that most of you watch on TV, hence the reason why you struggle to subscribe. So if you grab your mobile phone, scan that little QR code, and that'll take you straight into the YouTube channel where you can just hit the subscribe button. It's free, always will be. It just makes sure you get the full updates and it'll help the channel grow. So please scan that little QR code for me. First of all, the weather. You know, it's sunny most days here, and in fact, you know, we get somewhere around 320 days of sunshine a year and very little rain. Although I do want to tell you, when we do get it, we certainly know about it, and you've probably seen that in some of the news. Or maybe the UK news doesn't report those kind of things in Spain, because they seem to have a bias against Spain for some reason. But you know, we do get some floods. Having said that, you know, with the weather being good, it's not all sun and sangria. There's definitely some downsides too. You know, July and August, they're almost unbearably hot here in southern Spain. But overall, I'd say that we enjoy the weather in a way that I never thought possible. And it does have more of an impact on our lives and our well-being than we ever realised. You know, we eat outside most of the time, we go for strolls along the beachfront, we cycle to the beach or to go somewhere for lunch, and we enjoy a whole host of other outdoor activities that we just couldn't do in Scotland. As you probably know, I brought my Harley Davidson over 2 years ago, and I can tell you that motorcycling here in Spain is just fantastic. You know, and let's consider community spirit. You know, the weather does have a lot to do with it, but an equally important part is, you know, that we've got an overall feeling of safety in being part of a community here. And that's an added bonus that we just didn't anticipate. You know, we didn't know that we moved here, but I can absolutely tell you that a big positive of living in Spain is the community. And you definitely feel like part of a community here. You know, we live in a small village called Senorio de Roda in Murcia province, just down by the coast. So we're about an hour south of Alicante and 20 minutes from Cartagena. And everybody talks to each other here, and you know, there's lots of festivals and activities happening all the time. We've been to lots of outdoor concerts and events, and just last week we went into Cartagena to watch the Christians and Romans parade. It went on for hours. There's tens of thousands of people just go there. There's always lots of markets and all that kind of stuff going on. And Spain really fosters that community environment. And for me, sadly that's something that's completely absent in the UK right now. People don't seem to mix in the same way. Fewer people even know their neighbours. And more people are just keeping themselves to themselves. Now, here in Spain, we're experiencing, fantastic community spirit, albeit in a few different languages with different people. But that's fine. We're learning all the time. We've got a large circle of friends here now, friends from all over the UK that live out here or, have holiday homes here. And we've got friends from all over Europe. And everybody you meet here is just really friendly. And I do have to talk about the cost of living. The other week we went out with friends for lunch in a little restaurant right on one of the beaches. And we all had a decent sized lunch and around a drinks each. And the entire bill was, I think it was around €66 for the five of us. Now, we weren't drinking lots of alcohol or anything like that, but the point is you can take your family out for a lovely lunch or a dinner here. And our local little bar, you can have a menu del dia, 2 courses with bread and water for €7 each. In fact, it's under €7 for a 2-course lunch. And you just can't do that in the UK now. It's just got so expensive and cost prohibitive for lots of families now. For example, simple things like fish and chips are getting ridiculous as well. Somewhere around 12 to sometimes £15 each for fish and chips. So that's 60 quid for a family of 4 just to have a chippy. It's just not cheap to live in the UK anymore. And that's before you add in some of the negatives that I mentioned earlier about just the mood of the country and the lack of community spirit and all those other things. And then when you consider household bills, our council tax here it's under €30 a month, and our electricity bills average out at around €100 a month. And that's allowing for aircon in the summer months and using the aircon as heating in the winter months. Even things like the gas cylinder for our barbecue, which we use a lot. Just before we came from Scotland, it cost me just over £50 to get a gas cylinder for the barbecue. And here, I can buy the same gas cylinder for under €20. Now please remember to hit that subscribe button or follow the little QR code link. And there's a new feature called Hype. If you just find it, if you're on your mobile phone, you'll see Hype. Just click on the Hype button and it'll help us grow the channel. So I really appreciate that. And I also need to talk about the health service here in Spain. Now, coming from the UK, we all seem to have this perverse pride in the National Health Service, where nobody can say anything wrong about it. And I get that, because it definitely delivers most of the time for sure. There's lots of lovely things going on, and the people in the National Health Service do their best to look after you and to care for you, but the system is just being overwhelmed at the minute. It's hard to get an appointment to see a doctor, and that's if you can get past the Rottweiler receptionist that seems to do everything they can to prevent you getting to speak to the doctor or making an appointment. And if you have seen a doctor and you need tests, you can wait months and months to see a specialist or go to the hospital for tests. Now, here in Spain, if I need to see the doctor, I can usually get an appointment within 48 hours. And that's to see an actual doctor. That's not just talk to somebody through an app or anything, or on the phone. And also, I've had some x-rays and tests done and completed, and results discussed with me all within a couple of weeks. So, it pains me to say it, I'm sorry to say it, that the health service is just better in Spain than it is in the UK. And that's the public health service. This is not any fancy health insurance. You know, we've got healthcare through the S1 forums as in UK pensioners. Because we get our state pension, we get free healthcare here in Spain. I'll maybe do another wee video about that as well for you. And you know, despite the complications in the health service caused by the language barrier and the never-ending Spanish bureaucracy, I just feel that public services and systems in Spain are far better than those in Britain. Now, to offset that a wee bit, we are paying a bit more income tax here than we would have in the UK, but it just feels like our taxes are being used to good effect because, you know, council services are great, the roads are in fantastic condition, there's no potholes, as opposed to your money, tax money raised, just disappearing into a black hole somewhere like it does in the UK. Now, I don't want to get political in this, it's not what this video is all about, but I do think, you know, right now in 2025, you get a lot more for the taxes you pay in Spain versus what you pay in the UK. Now, maybe that'll change in years to come. Maybe they'll get it sorted one day, but for now, I just don't see that happening. You know, what about quality of life? Because that's really what this video is all about. Let's just address the elephant in the room. Did we have a better quality of life in the UK? Or is it better here in Spain? Well, you know, take into account the weather, the community spirit, the feeling of safety, the health service, the overall cost of living, and the lifestyle. All of these things obviously contribute to that. So in our case, we definitely have a much better quality of life here in Spain. You know, but that doesn't mean you will. It doesn't mean it would be right for you. But despite all the good stuff, you know, we do have to cover some little caveats because there are things that we miss. And bizarrely, we actually miss going on holiday. And I know you're thinking, what? How can that be? You know, because we used to love travelling and seeing new places in different parts of the world. But we just seem to have got out of the habit of doing that when we've got the beach on the doorstep and the sunshine every day. You know, people say, oh, your life must be one long holiday now, Duncan. But it's completely different when you live here to when you go on holiday. Now, what I mean is, when you go on holiday, you know, you overindulge in everything for a week or a couple of weeks. You eat out all the time, you go to the beach or the pool, you lie around, you drink a lot more than you normally would, and you eat a lot more than you normally would. And mainly because, you know, you budgeted for that and planned for it. And you just can't do that when you live here. You know, unless you're absolutely loaded, of course, then you possibly can. But if you do that, you'll end up as an overweight, unhealthy person with health problems just bubbling up underneath. And having said that, there are lots of people like that here too. You just need to look around at the number of fat bellies in the bars, restaurants and on the beaches. Also, it goes without saying that, you know, we definitely miss our family and friends. But you have to remember, you know, we're only a 3-hour flight away from Scotland, and flights are often very cheap if you go out of season. So we can get back whenever we want. Now, we go back to Scotland twice a year, once in the summer and once at Christmas. And some of our family have came out and visited us here as well. And we do have a weekly FaceTime call with the kids. So, you know, it's not perfect, but what we can get here in return for allowing for those things is we just have a really nice life here, that's for sure. So in conclusion, what will our future look like? Well, who knows? We're really enjoying Spain and we really enjoy the life that we have here. However, and it's something else to consider, we're just about to start the final renewal of our non-lucrative visas. You know, it's at the end of 3 years you have to renew for the final 2. And that's all a bit of an unknown at the minute because the Spanish government have changed quite a few of the requirements since we did our original application and our first renewal. So we just don't know where it's all going to go. And you know, we might be heading back to Scotland sooner than we planned if it doesn't go well. Let's hope not. So, the question, is life better here than in the UK? Well, for us, absolutely, no question. You know, we're making lots of friends here, we're eating healthier food, we're becoming more and more integrated into the community, but who knows what's around the corner? You know, the weather does count for a lot for me. I just absolutely love sunny weather. Being able to sit outdoors most of the time, soaking up lots of nice vitamins. With plenty of factor 50, of course, you've got to take care. I love feeling healthier, and you know, a massive positive of living here is that you're outside much more of the time. You know, so that means you don't need box sets to binge on telly as much. You don't need to be indoors hunting for things to do because the weather's crap. You can just go outside and do stuff. You know, that's what the weather does. It lets you play outdoors if you're a kid. And you know, to go outdoors, meet friends for a coffee, a glass of sangria, a game of bowls, just chatting in the sunshine if you're an adult. So, you know, I think it offers people who are thinking of moving to Spain a lot. But it does need to be considered carefully if you've ever thought about doing it. You know, since the dreaded B word, Brexit, it's not super simple now just to rip up your roots and move to another country. But that's, you know, probably the subject of another video for another time, so let's not dwell on that now. But almost 3 years in, it's been an amazing move for us. You know, just maybe it could be for you too. So as always, thanks for supporting the channel, and if you do like the content, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another video. Scan the little QR code, as I've said, and that will bring it right up on your mobile phone. It makes it easy to subscribe. It's free, it'll never cost you anything, and you won't get bombarded with nonsense. It just helps the channel grow. Hit the wee thumbs up and the bell, and if you see the hype button, just tap on that too. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video. Hasta luego.